Hello, this video is in response to my environmental science research paper. Um, for this presentation, I am just going to read directly from my research paper. So let's begin. China's severe pollution dilemma, an analysis of its consequences and effects on our environment. Abstract. Throughout this course, we have been introduced to several environmental topics, including, but not limited to, different environments / ecosystems and how they work, why having a healthy environment is ideal, and how we affect and interact with the environment. Very early in this environmental science course, my interest was researching waste and pollution because I've been interested in learning just how much we as people consume natural resources and just how much waste, trash we put in the environment. I thought, what is one of the most polluted and populated areas in the world? My immediate response was China. I know China and the surrounding area is densely populated, and from what I already know, they have severe pollution problems. I'm particularly interested in researching and learning just how living in an area like this can be, how much waste is produced in an area like this, the impact it has on them and the environment, and on us and its potential consequences. Pollution. We hear about it in the media all the time. We hear the statistics, see the images of pollution, trash, and the melting icebergs. Yet we seem oblivious to what all this really means. This has inspired me to analyze pollution and its real-world consequences. Currently, the best example of this pollution is China. As of 2006, China is the leader in greenhouse emissions and pollutants, receiving up to 70% of its energy from coal. With pollution levels in major cities like Beijing at 100 times higher than ideal limits per United Nations standards, it's no secret that China's habitats are being affected and the world as well. Firstly, to put this into perspective, just how much pollution is being emitted by China, we must look at the numbers. With a total population of nearly 1.4 billion, China produces 220 tons of municipal waste annually. In addition, every year since 1989, China has increasingly used and relied on coal for its power needs, reaching a high consumption of about 4,000 million short tons in 2011. In comparison, the whole world combined for a total consumption of 4,400 million short tons that same year. Accordingly, China accounts for about 24% of global carbon emissions. The primary reason that China consumes as much coal as it does is because of its steel production. As China has become more industrialized, its need for energy has gone up dramatically. Economics plays an important role in why China is so polluted. As mentioned before, industrialization and its high demands has contributed to high amounts of coal usage for power. China is one of the leading nations in output of goods, exporting 2 trillion of its production in 2006. The United States exported 1.47 trillion. With all the money and jobs at stake, it's difficult for this country not to take advantage, even if it's coming at a high cost to the environment. Speaking of economics, China's GDP is about 11 trillion, but it has been estimated by Rand Corp that 6.5% of that is lost annually due to pollution and its variety of problems that occur from it. The biggest affected sector is agriculture, where its food security and safety are compromised. Acid rain, produced by China's air pollution, deforestation, as well as crop damage, but can also cause structural damage to buildings and obviously harm people's health. Moreover, water pollution causes water shortages in rural areas where people receive water that is so polluted that it is unusable, which leads to significant loss of agricultural production. Worker productivity also takes a huge hit. Often people get sick from the pollution and they can't attend work, which has a trickling effect on the economy. Sometimes the air quality is so bad that work is canceled due to outside conditions. It is needless to say that the pollution being produced has profound economic impacts on the country and its people that vary in severity and manner. Furthermore, with all this pollution, people and this planet are feeling its effects and with it its consequences. Berkeley Earth, a research organization, has determined that 90% of Chinese cities failed air quality tests. It is reported that 3 out of every 8 people in China breathe unhealthy air, contributing to over a million deaths per year due to health problems and conditions such as asthma, lung cancer, strokes, and heart attacks. Accordingly, data shows that life expectancy of the Chinese is overall lower than surrounding countries like South Korea and Japan. All these health problems are not only deadly, but they strain China's healthcare system, as more people need medical treatment, in which a study by Kan and Chen determined to cost $625 million in 2001. It also reduces quality of life, real estate values, productivity, and most importantly, our climate. Consequently, China's pollution problem doesn't just affect the Chinese, it affects the whole world, including us here in America. Scientists here in the US, using computer models, have attributed China's pollution problem to more intense Pacific storms. Researcher Wan Wang, using 30 years of data and climate models, found that Asian air pollution rises 6 miles into the upper atmosphere and affects cloud formation and storm intensity, which in turn impacts global air circulations and climate. If China's pollution can affect us all the way here, it goes without saying the effects it can have on neighboring countries. Thus, access to clean water is becoming increasingly harder to obtain for the people of China. Because urbanization has polluted China's soil, its water too has been affected by runoff. It is estimated that China's farmlands lose about 3 billion per year to soil pollution, and that between 40 to 70% of China's soil is already contaminated with heavy metals and toxic fertilizers. Fortunately, it's not all bad news for us all. China isn't completely ignorant to its pollution problems and its effects. If anything, they are very much aware. Starting early 2000s, China's government started to contemplate pollution reduction. The first step was implementing regulations including, but not limited to, closing companies, reducing car availability, and driving restrictions. In turn, there has been a noticeable reduction in pollution when these restrictions are implemented. In response to this positive result, the Chinese government has invested up to 3.8 billion on energy saving and environmental protection, and has incentivized companies who use clean practices and equipment or create cleaner technologies. In return, China has slightly been using less energy and coal, about 2 or 3% less annually since 2015. This has been good not only for China's pollution issues but for its economy. By creating a new economic sector, clean energy, new companies are creating cutting-edge technology and building energy efficient real estate, transportation systems, and power generation infrastructure. Overall, it is apparent that living in a polluted world is impractical, undesirable, and unsustainable. China's pollution issues and problems is the extreme end of the spectrum on what effects it can have on humanity and our environment. It is evident that the only true way to combat this issue is to reinvent how we obtain our energy, how we use it, and how much big of a human footprint we have. Even though China is the biggest polluting country in the world, they are taking the right steps into a cleaner, more sustainable way of producing energy by investing in cleaner technologies. It will be several years before we come close to achieving this ideal scenario of little to no waste and emissions, but there is no doubt that change is required if we want this planet to be inhabitable.